Two related headlines on big tech in China. Chinese-controlled newspaper The People's Daily warns that Apple may be used as a, quote, bargaining chip in trade discussions, setting up a possible state-sponsored boycott of, say, the iPhone. Baidu, the Chinese web giant, vows that if Google re-enters the market there, it, quote, will win again. The head of Drudge this morning says China uses Apple as bait. Are we overplaying this or not?
Well, I mean, from Google's perspective, this is another one of these ethical arguments. It's like, do you participate in one of the biggest markets in the world and play by their rules, or do you just say, nope, we're going to do it our way and be banned from the country? I mean, that's a tough question for them.
You know, Apple considers itself a hardware company. And so they're going to go sell phones. They have their very strong stance on privacy. They did turn over their cloud vendor, or their cloud service vendor relationship to a Chinese company. I think that's right on the ethical boundary for Apple in many cases. But Apple's commitment to privacy and security, I think Tim Cook is saying, I can manage this because I'm not even building systems that would let them in necessarily. I think Google, they are about collecting your data, harvesting it, retargeting the ads, doing all the things that they do. I think they have a much harder set of lines to draw around where the government will be involved in that, and I don't think they've been forthcoming as to where they're going to start drawing those lines.
Long-term question here, when you start hearing reports about Google potentially building censored, albeit a censored search engine in China, you've also got some reports that maybe Facebook is circling the bandwagon in terms of trying to enter that country as well. Is all of this potentially a bet that it becomes easier for those companies to operate there, depending on how all of the tariff and trade war rhetoric shakes out?
I don't know how related it is to tariffs, but I do think that one thing we've seen with internet brands as opposed to legacy media or legacy retailers is these are global brands that are being created. Google, Facebook, all of them. China has been walled off from that to a large extent. It's created its own massive brands that are now trying to actually come outside of China and the rest of the world. And so I think this tension is going to exist for a while. And these companies all have decisions to make. It's okay, are we comfortable saying we will try to change from within, play by the rules, or are we just going to say, nope, we're on the outside? And it's not an easy choice.
Mark Zuckerberg just was on Kara Swisher's podcast.
Yeah.
And she said, well, first she said, would you fire yourself? And he said, not at this time, which was amazing.
Yes.
And then he said, well, if it's not us, it's going to be a Chinese company, and you would prefer us. And so I think that actually is driving a lot of this for these companies. You don't want Facebook to, hit a cap of growth, flame out, and then suddenly it's Baidu is the dominant social media provider in the United States. Like, that is not necessarily a good policy outcome for a variety of reasons. It's not a great business outcome for Facebook. So I think there's an element of pride, of responsibility here for these companies, but I think they have to balance that against what we're also doing is exporting American values, and they haven't really made that case.